Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So, Vergil Ortiz Jr.'s next fight has been announced, and he's going to be fighting on August the 14th, and he will be fighting hard-hitting welterweight contender and former title challenger Egidijus Kavaliauskas. Now I have to say, I actually think this is a really good fight for Vergil Ortiz Jr. at this stage of his career. Vergil Ortiz Jr. to me is one of the more exciting young talents in boxing, not only in the welterweight division but boxing as a whole. And one thing I like about Vergil Ortiz Jr. and his rise is that the matchmaking has been very good. He's not been fed complete cream puffs. Don't get me wrong, he's been given fights in which he was supposed to win, but fights that would test him somewhat. You know, guys like Maurice Hooker, Antonio Orozco, guys who would test Vergil Ortiz Jr. And to me, Egidijus Kavaliauskas is another one of those sort of fights. In fact, I would say this is the biggest step up of Vergil Ortiz Jr.'s career to date. As I mentioned, Egidijus Kavaliauskas, a former title challenger at welterweight, he actually gave Terence Crawford a pretty good fight while it lasted. In fact, he actually dropped Terence Crawford and it wasn't counted. So Kavaliauskas has a good amateur background, he's relatively experienced, he's fought Terence Crawford, a former title challenger, he hits hard. I think this is a good test for Vergil Ortiz Jr. Obviously in Vergil Ortiz Jr.'s last fight he fought Maurice Hooker, which was viewed as the biggest step up in his career at that point, and I think Kavaliauskas is a step ahead of Hooker at welterweight. And you know, in that fight with Hooker, while Vergil Ortiz was always in control for the most part, Hooker actually managed to land some good shots and gave Vergil Ortiz some problems here and there. So, you know, defensively, this fight with Kavaliauskas, maybe Vergil Ortiz needs to tighten up a little bit, because I do believe Kavaliauskas hits harder than Hooker at welterweight. So if Kavaliauskas can land those same shots that Hooker did, who knows, man, maybe Vergil Ortiz Jr. could be in a bit of trouble. But what I like about Vergil Ortiz, fight by fight, he seems to improve. He seems to adjust things he got wrong in the previous fights kind of thing. So going into this fight with Kavaliauskas, I'm expecting to see Vergil Ortiz a little tighter in terms of defense, not quite as open to that straight right hand, which is one of Kavaliauskas' best punches. So again, I think this is a very good test for Vergil Ortiz Jr. It's a great opportunity for Kavaliauskas as well, because if he were to win this fight, he's right back in the title picture, put in a really good account of himself against Terence Crawford. But if he were to beat Vergil Ortiz Jr., he's right back in the mix. And as for Vergil Ortiz, like I said, it's his biggest step up to date. So both guys going into this fight should be very motivated. Also, stylistically, I can't see this one being a bad fight. Kavaliauskas is I would call Kavaliauskas an aggressive boxer puncher, and you know, Vergil Ortiz Jr. is also a bit of a pressure fighter himself. So, and both guys hit hard. So put these two guys together, I'm pretty certain it's going to be a very good fight while it lasts. And yeah, man, I have to say, it's a fight I'm looking forward to. I think it's the ideal sort of opponents for Vergil Ortiz Jr. And, you know, should Vergil Ortiz Jr. come through this, at that point, we would have to start talking about title shots, in my opinion. But, yeah, I'm very satisfied with this fight. Of course, this fight's going to be on DAZN. It's a Golden Boy card. I've actually really enjoyed the recent Golden Boy cards on DAZN, so hopefully this one also has a strong undercard. And yeah, man, I like these sort of fights when prospects get real tests. So yeah, I like the matchmaking for Vergil Ortiz. If he's to get through this fight, then he's going to be knocking on the door for a title shot. But anyway, share your thoughts below. It's been your guy Delboy. Peace.